Welcome to MCN and a series of videos where we speak to MCN staff about the long-term test bikes they've been running in 2025. And today this video is all about Ben's Indian. Welcome along, mate.
Hello.
Which Indian is this exactly?
This is the 101 Scout.
And I recognise this because I did the launch of this last year in San Francisco. Obviously you haven't been riding it in such salubrious
Unfortunately
conditions.
not. I made it across the channel though.
Did you? Oh,
yeah,
good. That's good. And how long have you had this?
I got this last springtime.
Spring 25.
Yep.
And how many miles have you done in that time?
6,500.
Right. And this is kind of like a performance version of the Scout, isn't it?
Yeah.
So it's got upside down forks, radial brakes, sporty goodies.
Yeah, and it's sporty enough that I was genuinely quite surprised when I rode it, because I'm a cruiser virgin.
Yeah.
So I've had an Indian on the fleet before, but it was the FTR, which is a roadster really, not a cruiser. So coming to this, I didn't really know what to expect, but I thought it would be a bit sort of baggy and rumbly, and you know.
It's not, is it?
It's not.
Really sporty.
Not at all. Really sporty.
Me.
Yeah.
It's kind of like an R model, isn't it? Really, like because of all the nice bits and bobs on it.
Yeah.
And it's not completely standard, is it? You've listed down what you've put on this bike. So it's £16,155.
That's now. It was 16,099 at the time I took ownership of it.
You got saddlebags?
Saddlebags I've added on. It comes with a quilted single seat.
Yep.
So I wanted a pillion, but they had to swap the seat to get a pillion seat.
Right.
And that then added this sissy bar as well.
Yep. You've got midfoot controls.
Midfoot controls, yeah. So the standard ones are feet right out in front of you, American Route 66 and all that. But it was just putting all the weight through my spine, so I've swapped to the midfoot.
That makes a difference.
Controls. Huge difference. Massive, completely transformed the bike.
I don't know how people have feet forward for cruising, like long distance.
No.
That's hurt your back, doesn't it?
Well, I think that the Americans call it a bar hopper, don't they?
Do they?
It's for going from bar to bar, short trips.
And you go to enough bars, you won't remember how.
No, you won't feel the pain. Yeah.
And you got pillion pegs as well.
Pillion pegs, yeah, to go with the pillion seat. Yep.
Relocated indicators.
Yep, which just fit onto this rack here. Yeah. Because they've had to move backwards to be clear of the panniers.
And what have you done on the bike? Where have you been?
So I've taken a few longer trips, which is why I wanted to make the changes. So I rode down to Le Mans for the car race.
Right, nice.
So we did that in one shot down.
Did you camp there?
No, Airbnb because I'm old now.
Oh, that's the same sort of thing.
Used to camp when I went, yeah. But yeah, we went down, so from home in Kings Lynn all the way down to Le Mans in one shot. And
Two up?
No, just me.
Just you.
And all my luggage.
Yeah.
And then enjoyed the race, had a few days, and then one hop straight back up again. And it did that absolutely fine. And then I went down to Cornwall to Bodmin for the Indian rally, UK rally.
Yeah.
Again, did that in one hit, and then the next day rode up and sort of took the North Devon and Somerset coast.
Yeah, nice.
Sort of wound my way back. Yeah, and those changes that we talked about, especially the foot pegs, it's only actually moved back 2 inches at most, I think. They're still foot forward, your feet are still in front of you, but you can brace and you can take the weight off your bum when you hit a bump, and you can manipulate the bike with your feet a bit more in the corners, and the difference it's made is unbelievable for just a couple of degrees of knee bend, basically, is all the
It's an amazing thing
difference.
with motorbikes. You change tiny little things and it changes the whole character.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
You very kindly come up with a list of things you like and not so keen on.
Yep.
So let's start with the good stuff, the way it looks.
Yeah, I think it looks mint.
I do.
I've never really been one that was into all the cruiser stuff. I mean, I'm nearly 40 and this is the first one I've ridden, so obviously I've not been into it.
Yeah.
But I think this looks really good. The paint finish on the tank and the way they've painted it up. Obviously it's a slightly special model, that 101, compared to the original Indian, the first Indian. Yeah. Same colour, and they did a load of promo shots, didn't they, with the bikes next to each other. And I've always liked the way that Indians do their little like eye decals in that kind of circusy font, and it's just that pure Americana. You're never going to be riding this and think where's this from again? You know,
No, exactly.
it's just pure American motorcycle, isn't it?
With a nice dash of kind of modern sportiness as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Not as much as the FTR that I mentioned I had before, which
Yeah.
is like a modern flat
Like
tracker.
a
But
super naked almost.
yeah, but yeah, just little like the this exhaust cover here has got the sort of shark fin finish.
Yeah.
You know, that's a
There's
fairly
lots of
modern
really nice
sort of looking
detailing
bit.
on it, isn't there?
Yeah, it's one of those bikes where everywhere you look, there's something to see.
And good level of equipment, isn't it? So you've got Brembos, you've got fully adjustable suspension. We'll come on to some of that later.
Yeah.
Twin adjustable shocks at the rear.
Yep, adjustable for preload.
And
Yeah,
the luggage looks good as well, doesn't it? Nice and integrated.
Yeah, there's a slight issue with it.
Okay.
In that Indian never intended for this particular luggage to go on this particular bike.
Okay.
So it fouls the reservoir
shock
on the
canister,
shock, yeah. But they are apparently working on a version that will fit the 101 Scout.
So looks are good. The power of the bike.
Yeah.
So what have we got here? 110 bhp.
Yeah,
So that's
ish.
quite a lot.
I've not
isn't
dynoed it, but
yeah.
it feels like about that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to be honest, with the foot position, if you were really on the pipe and went all the way through the revs, you felt a bit sort of out of control because you didn't feel like you were in the right position to be doing it.
Yeah.
With the pegs changed, you feel more in control. But I was surprised as well how revvy the engine is. You sort of think that you'd, fifth or sixth gear everywhere and just roll the throttle on and it'll go. But it actually chugs a bit if you do that.
Yeah.
You have to change down the gears and then rev through the rev range to get the best out of it. It's quite a sporty feeling engine really for a 1250 V-twin.
It's still grunty.
Yeah, it's still grunty. Yeah. But yeah, I was surprised that it is as revvy as it is.
How are the gears? How's the gearbox?
I mean, it's not slick, I wouldn't say. No. It's quite chunky
typical
and
American
clunky
style gearbox.
Yeah, there's no quick shifter. And if you're clutchless shifting on the way up, you have to be very, very deliberate with how you're doing it.
Yeah.
And the pedal moves quite a long way and
it's
stuff.
still got its cruiser genes. It's not a complete sports bike.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But having said that, it doesn't miss gears or
No.
I haven't had any false neutrals or anything like that, so it works well enough.
And the handling of it. It's surprising, isn't it?
Yeah. The ground clearance, I mean, obviously you go out in the first roundabout you hit, you put a peg down and go,
Is that worse with the mid pegs than the foot forwards?
No,
same?
about the same, yeah. With the foot forwards, the first thing that hit the ground was your heel, which almost gave you a sort of early warning system, whereas with this, it's the hero blob that touches. But you quite quickly, or I quite quickly sort of adapted to, I just didn't lean over quite as far, and it does have good ground clearance, and you can scratch the itch. You can you can press on a little bit. But yeah, it's funny. Anytime I've lent it to anyone else on the team, the first time they go into a corner, they put a peg down and crap themselves. But yeah, no, the handling I've been really impressed with. It's quite firm.
I was going to say, what's the ride quality like?
Because the travel's quite short. But again, with the foot forward peg position, you'd hit a pothole that you didn't see coming or something, and like condense your spine. And
what about the brakes? The fancy brakes?
Yeah, I mean it's a heavy bike, 240 kilos. I think I put down on there. So the brakes are doing quite a lot of work, and I tend to use both.
You need to use a lot of rear on bikes like this, don't you?
Yeah, and I've never really been a massive rear brake user, generally, but especially if you're nipping around a queue of traffic into a roundabout and you need to get ahead of it to go into a single lane. And you're sort of on both brakes all the way in, and then you're dragging the rear all the way around the roundabout, and
it does let you get away with a lot, doesn't it?
It does, yeah, and they do really work.
Yeah.
And I've not had very many lockups where the ABS has had to intrude.
I think the ride and handling are fantastic. But I was going to ask you, are you glad it's this sporty? Could you get away with a Scout that isn't this sporty? Would you miss the sportiness of it?
I think I'd miss the sportiness,
right,
yeah.
So you do. There is something to be said for a sporty cruiser.
Yeah, definitely. I think certainly coming from my perspective of not being that bothered about the scene, the sportiness is nice because it means I've not had to completely give over to forget about corners.
Do you feel part of the scene now?
Yeah, well, going down to that rally, I was a bit worried because everyone there's got a patch on their back and a
Yeah.
wallet chain and a massive beard. And I mean, I've got a beard, but it's not very big. That kind of Viking marauder chic kind of thing going on. And literally my only link to the brand is that I'm testing the bike this year. That's as far as it goes. So I was a little bit nervous, shall we say, going down there. But everyone's just really, really nice. And actually then you get talking to people that are wearing a patch and they've got plaid shirt and, you know, everything. And they say, oh no, I just bought it last week. They're just, and everyone just talks to you on the same, you know, on an equal footing. It's,
that's brilliant.
It is really nice. You do feel involved and included.
Yeah.
But not in a bad way.
No. Long range comfort. You like?
Yes. Again, with the changes I made, it's made a big difference. But that trip down to Cornwall, I was really worried that I'd spend the whole time thinking, oh, I wish I was on something a bit sportier. Because
you've got no real wind protection.
No.
You've got a small little screen there.
Yeah. And the riding position instinctively shouldn't be particularly great for that kind of work. But actually, it's really, really good. You get used to the position that you're in. It's comfortable enough. You've got cruise control, which makes a big difference, especially if you are, you know, down the motorway. Yeah. And you can shake your hands out and
because you're kind of hanging on, aren't you?
Occasionally, if I'm on for a long time, I get a bit of numbness from having my arms up. So it's nice to have the cruise control and be able to just shake everything out. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't regret being on it at all for the whole trip. It's really comfortable. There's something nice about having the weight of the bike for when you're doing a long trip like that.
Heavy bikes, you just plough along.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And it's quick enough and handles well enough that if you do get to a twisty bit of Cornwall coastal road or whatever, you can have a little bit of fun. You can use the power of the engine to pull you out the corner, and it was absolutely perfect.
And finally, you touched on it there, acceptance.
Yeah, which is like I was saying, you pull up into a car park and there's another Indian rider there, and you'll generally be able to have a nice chat with them, and you know, or even if it's a whole gang of them that are clearly a little group or a chapter or whatever, and you just have a chat, and it's all very normal and very nice, and
which you don't necessarily get with other genres of bike, do you?
No, exactly.
Be quite clicky, can't it?
Yeah, and it looks from the outside like it would be.
Yeah.
But actually, that hasn't been my experience at all.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Well, let's move on to some things you're not so keen on, which we have to address. Fuel gauge.
So the fuel gauge, I've had six long-term test bikes now. I've run out of fuel on 2 of them, both Indians.
Right. So what's going on there?
So the fuel gauge is full for half a tank.
Right.
And then it empties very, very quickly.
It's not linear, yeah.
By the time the fuel light comes on, you've only got about 20-25 miles, which just isn't enough in the UK.
No. So what's the range on this roughly?
I've had 170, 175 miles to a tank.
Right, and that's when you're going to be really nervous.
Empty. Yeah. So what I've had to start doing is use half on the gauge as fine fuel now.
Right.
And since I've changed to that, I haven't had any problems, and you still get a decent amount in. It was worth stopping. But it just means you've got about 50, 60 miles when it says you've got half a tank left. And that's more realistic. You know, my experience of fuel light is about 40, 50 miles, isn't it? So.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe we leave this one to the end because it's quite a big one. Let's talk about the dash while we're in the fuel gauge kind of. So the dash is a colour TFT.
Yeah.
It's touchscreen, or you can adjust it from the switch gear.
There, yeah.
But you're not keen on it.
It's fiddly, but it's also unreliable. So I parked the bike up over there a second ago, and Joseph, our illustrious camera person, told me to ride it over. And the whole time over, the dash didn't actually start up.
Right.
And it does that sometimes. Or sometimes it does its start screen and then stays on it, and then all the warning lights around the periphery light up and stay lit up.
That's not what you want when you're miles from home, is it?
No, exactly.
Just panic you.
And I've never had it completely fail.
Yeah.
And normally just switching it off or giving it a few cycles, and it eventually comes to life. Early on, I voiced this to Indian, and they said that the dash has its own updates. So when Indian had the bike for the first service and everything, they updated the electronics for the bike. It doesn't do the dash.
Okay.
And you can actually do your own if you download the update from their website onto a USB and plug it in, or they'll do it for you, which is what they did in the end. And that actually improved things a little bit, but it's still just that element in the back of your mind of,
yeah, especially if you're still doing it.
yeah.
And when it is working, is it okay? Has it got lots of good functions?
Yeah, it's not too bad. The sat nav's on it is pretty good. The integrated sat nav.
Is that you fire that up from an app, your app on the phone, or is it?
Well,
does
you
it
can
work by
control.
itself?
You can control it through.
Right.
You can search an address in it, but the touchscreen's not the best interface, and so I tend to just use the phone to do it.
Yeah, that's handy. Okay, mirrors. So you got these bar end mirrors.
Yep. If you accelerate too hard, they point at the sky.
Yeah.
Because they twist around on the bars.
Yeah. I remember that from the launch actually.
It's only if you really, really give it the beans.
Yeah.
And when you do a U-turn, they hit you in the knee, and then you're like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Quick dab down with the foot.
It's a proper fashion thing, isn't it? I prefer mirrors up here, but I suppose
Yeah.
to go with the style of the bike, you want them down there, don't you?
Yeah. And it's only those two specific things. The rest of the time, you can actually see quite a lot in them.
Yeah.
You don't get a lot of vibes through them, considering it's a
Yeah.
1250V twin. So you can see behind you. But yeah, those couple of little bits just really annoy. Especially that acceleration thing. If you've just bezzed off down the motorway, and then you're like,
at the precise time you need to.
yeah.
The stock foot peg position, touched on that a little bit.
Yeah, it's that. It just puts all of the weight through your spine, but it also fixes you in one position. It makes it really difficult to shuffle around, which means that your comfort isn't as good for as long.
Yeah.
And that, you know, touched on it before, that slight feeling of being a bit out of control of the bike, or just in slightly less control than you'd like.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an easy enough fix.
Finally, and the whole reason we run long-term test bikes in the first place is to check their durability, because a road test can last 2 weeks really, and you might cover some of the things that you've experienced, but you're not really going to see what it's like to live with over a long period. And you've talked about the finish.
Yes, which is really disappointing. I said before, I've had another Indian on the test fleet before, and that did similar things really, just sort of bolts fairing up and stuff like that, but it is slightly worse on this. So all of these bits of like diamond cut finish.
Oh, on the top yokes, that's all pitted, isn't it?
All pitted. Same on the wheels, and this bike's never been out in any salt because it came after the last frost, and it's gone back before the first one. Just normal weather. I do keep it outside under a cover, but I have every other bike I've ever owned, so it's had exactly the same treatment. And things like the bolts on the disc, the washers start to corrode, and then it kind of
that is bad.
It's like contagious, and it goes into the actual heads of the bolts as well. There's a heat shield back here that the exhaust runs around. A bit mucky from the riding in the rain. That's all sort of started to corrode up a little bit. The back end of the exhaust, actually inside the pipe, if you
oh crikey,
has absolutely gone. And it's like you're not putting rust blocker or corrosion presenter in there, are you?
No, exactly. It's disappointing.
Yeah, for a 16,000 plus pound bike, you'd expect a slightly better finish on those things.
And the general paint finish, has that been okay?
Yeah, that's done fine, and especially I like having a metal front mudguard.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing that I would like, but I've enjoyed it for some reason. It just feels sort of proper.
Yeah.
Paint on the tank's been good, paint on here. I mean, obviously it's been covered up by the pillion seat I added, but before that, no problems. So it is just those little bits of corrosion really that
just spoil it, don't they?
The issue, yeah.
Yeah. You got anything to add about the bike?
I mean, we're finished with the negatives, which I don't normally like doing, but I really, really like it.
I was going to say, because it's a very niche, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, cruisers are kind of niche enough.
Yeah.
Now you've got a very sporty cruiser, which takes it another step further.
Yeah. And I have this weird thing where I sort of like a bike that has niggles and flaws, and it gives it a bit of personality. And I think the niggles and flaws on this are just enough. You know, it hasn't actually let me down. It hasn't, running out of fuel arguably is still my fault, even if the gauge isn't very good. I mean, if I had spent £16,000 of my own money on it, I'd be gutted about the corrosion, and I'd be taking it back to Indian and saying, we need to do something about this. But but other than that, I've thoroughly enjoyed my time with it. And I'll be really sad to see it go.
Would you buy one, do you think?
If I did, it would have to be when I had a garage and had a lot of time to be applying ACF 50 and only taking it out midsummer.
Summer day.
And
Which I
stuff
guess
like
is what most people would do with bikes like this, and you know, we probably use them, abuse them more than people would do, which is the point of it. That's
definitely,
the whole point of us running these things.
Yeah, I commute on this through the rain. Like I say, it hasn't been out on any salt yet, but it will do if I've still got it when the salt's on the road. But yeah, it doesn't make it a bad bike.
No.
And like I say, I've really, really enjoyed owning it.
Good stuff.
Or looking after it, rather.
Thanks very much for showing us around the bike. Much appreciated. I'm really interested in this. And thank you very much for watching. And stay tuned for more videos just like this coming your way soon.